Hey guys, it's Alexandria Ross with Modern Day Crunch, and today we are going to talk about going back to work when we're breastfeeding. You are looking at a woman who breastfed both children as a full-time nurse. My first child, I was a nurse as a civilian, and my second child, I was an active duty Navy nurse, which meant I had no choice but to go back to work. What I do, I think 8 weeks later, I went back to work, and I had to pump to feed her. So we're going to talk about, is this possible? First and foremost, I always recommend, if you have a job, if you're pregnant now, let's say, and you know you're going to have to be going back to work after you have the baby, and you know you're going to be breastfeeding, go ahead and get like a memo or type something up to give to your employer or to your boss or manager or whoever, to let them know that you're going to be planning on breastfeeding, so it's not a surprise. Sometimes what happens is women are pregnant and then they go on maternity leave, and the employer expects that, but what they don't always think about is that when this mother comes back, that you're going to be breastfeeding, and then that's also going to require potentially require time away from the desk to pump. So I suggest putting something up so that right from the jump they know that when you get back to work you're going to need to breastfeed. There's a few reasons also. Yes, it's a common courtesy, but also you need to make sure you have a place to breastfeed, or to pump. If you need to pump, you need to have, legally, there needs to be a space for you to do so other than the bathroom stall. Been there, done that, it's kind of gross. I've been in lockers, bathrooms, random offices, I've pumped everywhere. So they need to legally now, there's laws in place that they have to have a place for you to pump and to store your milk. If you have your own office, well then great. Props to you. You don't have to worry about this. Just maybe get a sign or something for the outside of your door so that when you are pumping, people know not to disturb you at that time. If you have a cubicle or you're a nurse like me and you have to be on the go, or another doc, whatever other job, construction worker, I don't know, who knows. If you have a job where you need to be gone, teacher, then you need to make sure there's a place for you to pump and a place to store your milk. And if there's not, if you go ahead and tell them now, then they should have time to set this up. And like I said, there are rules and there are laws, and like there's a lot out there, so you just need to know your rights when it comes to that. So enough of that. Let's talk about you and what you should do or what you can expect as you pump. So the big thing about pumping is that you need to pump regularly when you're away from your child. The biggest thing that happens, the biggest thing that happens is women go back to work, and maybe it's because of guilt or they feel too busy or both. They go these long stretches without feeding. Like they leave their baby, they nurse their baby, and then they might not take a break until like lunchtime, which if you get to work at 9, then 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock is okay to pump. But if you're getting to work at like 6:30 in the morning, waiting till noon or later to pump is kind of too long if your baby is regularly eating every few hours. And if you're just now going back to work, chances are the oldest your baby is 3 months, maybe 12 weeks old, if you've got to take that long. I know now the military did extend to 18 weeks, which is awesome. So there are other jobs out there that maybe you're taking more time, but regardless, if it's still a newborn, if you still have a newborn at home, you need to be pumping every 2 to 3 or maybe 3 to 4 hours. 3 to 4 hours is reasonable to get through. If you work regular 8-hour days, 8-hour shifts, then really you only have to pump maybe twice at work. That's not bad at all. Many people, smokers, take more breaks than that. So it's doable, maybe twice. If you're working 12-hour or longer days, then you should be pumping at least 3 times in your day. How I personally did it was, when I woke up in the morning, I fed my child before I went to work. And now I was getting to work at like 6:15, 6:30 a.m. So I would go ahead and feed him or her, and then I would go to work, and every 3 hours I just let my coworkers know like I needed to go pump. There were times where I didn't, and you suffer from it. Engorgement is no joke. I did another video on how to handle engorgement. Hopefully you don't have to watch it. Hopefully you don't have that problem, but it's not a good thing. What happens when your breasts get too full of milk, it sends a signal to your body basically saying that you don't need to make as much milk as you're making. So what happens with women is they go these long stretches of time without pumping, and then their milk decreases, and now we're stressed out because now my milk supply is low and I'm not pumping enough, and you already have the guilt from having to be away from the baby, and now you don't have enough milk to give them, and then we're supplementing, and which is fine if that's what you have to do, but if it's not what you're trying to do, it can be very stressful, and women tend to feel a lot of guilt, and it's preventable. So what I would say is don't go too long, because your body's going to think that it doesn't need to produce this milk, and then it will stop producing the milk. So empty breast make milk. Just remember that. Empty breast make milk. So in order to keep up your milk supply, you need to pump regularly. So pump every 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 hours while at work. Have a nice place to store it. They have those cool Medela bags that like go right, like you can attach it right to the pump. They go right on it so that you can pump right into the bag. Because if you're like me, I didn't like having to clean my bottles all the time, and it took up too much time. So I love those. You just pump the milk right into the bag, put it in your cooler. You don't even need a fridge, honestly. If you just have a cooler, your milk will be fine in a cooler throughout the day until you go home, and you can divvy it up or do whatever you need to do. Make sure you're dating it, because you want to always use your oldest milk first, right? So make sure you're good and date your milk. When you get home or right then, I used to keep a Sharpie like in my bag, in my whole kit. So do that so that you can store it. And that's really it. Just make sure you have to be diligent about it. You have to do it. Set a timer if you need to, so that every 3 to 4 hours you're able to pump. And I promise you, your milk won't suffer. Now, baby always gets more than the breast pump does, but if you have a good pump, or even a manual pump, you should be fine. There are other tricks, and I can do another video on that, to help get your milk, double your milk supply while pumping. There's plenty of things, basically breast massage. I don't even know if I have to do another video on it. It's basically breast massage and warm compresses to help get out, like, as much milk out as possible while pumping. But maybe I will do another video on that, because we'll just go on too long here if I talk about it now. So going back to work, tell your employer from the jump that you're going to be breastfeeding. Make sure you have a pump. Now with insurance, a lot of times the pumps can get covered. Make sure you have a pump, have a bag, have a cooler to store your breast milk. Get the bags or the bottles or whatever you need to store it in. Make sure you have all that ready to go, so that you don't have to suffer from the guilt and stress of not having enough milk while you're at work. I promise you it's doable. I promise you it gets easier as you go. I breastfed my daughter for over a year, and majority of that I was a nurse full-time working and had to be away from her days and nights. So it's doable. You just got to set your mind right. If you are military, promise you there's rules and regulations that support you and that support breastfeeding as well. The only one who doesn't have a definite one, I think, is Army, but you can go to breastfeedingandcombatboots.com, I believe, and everything's right there. All of the legislations, all of the rules are on that site, so you can look up that if you are military. Otherwise, know that you're covered and supported to pump while at work. So I hope that helped. I hope you feel a little bit less stressed about having to go back to work. It's doable. You can do it. And again, just remember, there's no perfect way to parent. There's just your way, and that is what works best for you and your family. So do what you're doing, stick to it, and woosah, stay calm. Hey guys, hope this has been helpful. If it hasn't, let me know. If it has, then tell a friend so that she can jump on too. If you have a question that I haven't answered or that I haven't covered yet, please email me at moderndaycrunch@gmail.com so that I can answer your question right here on Modern Day Crunch to help you, and chances are other women too who have the same exact question. So get those questions into me and we will cover them soon.